creepy and cool TikToks that will blow your mind. Are you ready? Are you ready? Let's go!
Disclaimer: this video is for entertainment purposes only. Please do your own research, as these clips haven't been fact-checked.
Archaeologists discovered an ancient hand axe with a shell in the middle of it. It was found in England and dates back 300,000 years ago, meaning that it was either Neanderthals or Homo heidelbergensis that made it. The fossil is perfectly placed in the middle of the hand axe, and this wasn't by accident. While knocking out flakes to make the tool sharp, the hominid chose not to take the shell off. That means that a hominid hundreds of thousands of years ago noticed the fossil, recognized its beauty, and chose to preserve it. And this didn't make the tool any sharper or easier to hold, just more appealing. It's one of the earliest examples of aesthetic awareness in human history, and a hint that even other human species had the capacity for symbolism.
You already know whoever made that into their axe was aura farming with it.
This painting tells the true story of one of history's cruelest punishments. Painted in 1498 by the Flemish master Gerard David, this is the Judgment of Cambyses. Start with the left panel. A man in the red robe of a judge is being arrested, seized at his own seat of office. That is Sisamnes, a real judge from an ancient story by Herodotus. His crime? He took a bribe. He sold a verdict. Now look at the doorway behind him, a tiny scene. Sisamnes quietly accepting the bribe money in secret. David painted the crime and the arrest in the same panel, the sin and the moment it caught up with him. Now brace yourself and look at the right panel, the punishment.
Ooh.
King Cambyses did not imprison the corrupt judge. He had him flayed alive, his skin cut from his body while he still lived. David painted it in cold, calm, surgical detail. No drama, just men doing a methodical job on a screaming body. Now look into the background of that same panel, a chair, and draped over it, the judge's own skin. Because Cambyses appointed the dead man's son as the new judge, and made him sit on a throne upholstered with his own father's flesh, so that every ruling he ever made, he made from the skin of the man who sold justice for money. David dressed everyone in the painting in Flemish clothing and set it against the buildings of Bruges itself. He was not painting an ancient story. He was warning the men in that room. Take a bribe, and this is you. Most people will look at this and see a gruesome legend. You now see a message hidden in plain sight. And that's exactly what the hidden language of symbols teaches you to see. Link in my bio.
This town has such a dark history that nobody lives here anymore. This is the town of Pitcher, Oklahoma. And our story starts back in the 1920s when this is a booming mining town. I'm talking 20,000 people lived here back in the day. Now, the two main things they were mining here was zinc and lead. And what did we need zinc and lead for back then? World War I and World War II. We were making the bullets. When you mine lead, this is so important to the story. When you mine lead, there's a byproduct. That's the stuff we don't use, called chat. I need you to take a look at this. This mountain that I'm looking at, that I'm pulling up on right now, is chat. That's how much byproduct. This is one. There's 30 of these at least. And as we know now, but we didn't know back then, lead causes lead poisoning. This includes in the water. When we fast forward from the 1920s to the 1970s, it wasn't until the 1970s that they realized their water around the town had 5 times the amount of legal levels of lead in the water. The government came out and they made a Superfund site. That's where they're like, okay, we're going to start cleaning up all the lead in the water. An integral part of their town is they would enjoy hanging out on the Chat Hills, which they didn't know was giving everybody lead poison. It was killing their kids. It was causing weird deformations. Like this lady started growing bones in her ears. When people would swim in the water, their hair would turn red and they would get this crazy rash. And people lived here up until 2009. The government knew this was going on for almost 40 years. And it wasn't until 2009 that the government stepped in and said, we're going to buy all the land. We're going to buy you guys out. You cannot live here anymore. But it gets worse. When they stopped all of the mining, which was in the 1970s, they turned off all of the water pumps that were taking the water that would collect in the mine out of the mine. Now, because of all the water in the mines, there's 70,000 acres of mines. Because of the water in the mines, there are sinkholes. That's like my biggest fear, falling into a freaking sinkhole. So now,
put the data center there.
These are the Knights of the Living Dead, also known as the Order of St. Lazarus of Jerusalem. They were a military order whose purpose was to care for and protect those affected with leprosy, as it was custom in those times for those afflicted with the illness to remove themselves from regular society and live amongst fellow lepers. The Order of St. Lazarus allowed knights and crusaders who were afflicted with this illness to continue their defense of the Holy Land. Certain of their soon approaching deaths from the disease, they were widely recognized for their unmatched bravery and ferocity on the battlefield, choosing death over surrender. They would have been recognized by their distinct bright green crosses, the symbol of their order. And actually, the Order of St. Lazarus is still around today, with a focus on caring for the sick and impoverished. How amazing is it to learn of brave men who, despite going through incredible amounts of pain, chose to intentionally put themselves in situations of discomfort to defend what they believed in. That's something to look up to.
Nothing more dangerous than a man that has lost everything.
So if you didn't already know, there is a cannibalism-linked disease called Kuru. Now, you get this from eating raw human brain or coming in contact with like the spinal cord. First, you get the virus called prion, and then it turns into Kuru, which is very, very fatal. Also very rare, of course, but it is very fatal and it affects your brain and your nervous system, and it doesn't look too good. Now, from what I came across, there might be two celebrities under the spotlight who possibly have this disease. One is Celine Dion, and then the other one is Ellen DeGeneres. And Johnny Depp also spoke on that too. Here you go.
Ellen's got Kuru from eating infected human brain matter. That's why her body and mind are falling apart on camera. It was an open secret on her show. They were handing out dumplings laced with human meat to audience members.
What would happen if today we prove to the world that the Great Fire narratives all over the world are a massive, massive cover-up, proving that they were actually huge demolition projects, removing buildings that were built prior to 1776, and that the population of these massive cities were basically zero? What if I told you that today, after this episode, you will never think about the Great Fires the same way ever again? What if I told you that after this episode, you will never trust the mainstream history ever again? I've been waiting a long time to share this episode with the world. Are you ready to have your mind blown? Are you ready to see what we found today? Chicago, Illinois. We have the 1871 Great Fire, a fire that destroyed everything, over 17,500 buildings, and only left 6 buildings supposedly, killing basically nobody. 0.0008% of people died. Humans cannot inhale smoke. Not only do we have to keep the fire physically burning the individuals in mind, but also just as dangerous and a major cause of death from fires are actually inhaling smoke, taking only 2 to 10 minutes to pass out or even die. Fire burns oxygen, so as a fire continues to be active, more oxygen gets removed from the room. Keep this in mind as we continue. Here we have photos of all of the buildings. The whole city was supposedly destroyed by a fire. If this is true, then more than 300 people of the 334,000 people would have died. Today, in my opinion, will be the end of the mainstream history narrative. One of two things is more likely than what they're telling us, and more probable mathematically, where all of the buildings are destroyed, yet nobody had an issue getting away. So either there were more people that died than just 0.008% of the population, when all of the 17,500 buildings were in flames.
The fires were a cover to use TNT to blow up the marble and granite buildings.
This is the fourth and final part of every single billionaire mentioned in the latest batch of the Epstein files. First up today is a really disturbing one. It's hedge fund founder Glenn Dubin and his wife Ava, who actually was Epstein's girlfriend in the 80s. And we've known that these two were super close to Epstein since they told his probation officer in 2010 that they would be 100% comfortable having Epstein around their children. But now we're learning that around that time, Ava Dubin wrote to Epstein, "Come and visit next week. Selena will have 5 friends over." Selena was their then teenage daughter. And then we have Swiss banking CEO Ariane de Rothschild, and she and Epstein had a very friendly dynamic. They got together often in New York or Paris, and at one point Epstein even invited her to stay at his house. Next up is Ronald Lauder, heir to the Estee Lauder fortune, and new records show Epstein helped him set up a legal business venture so that he could buy a $25 million painting with fellow Epstein pal Leon Black. We talked about the disturbing allegations against Black in part 2, so go back and watch that if you haven't. Epstein and Lauder also got together socially a few times in 2017. And then we have Tom Pritzker of the Pritzker family, and new messages show he had a social relationship with Epstein from 2010 all the way to 2019. After one hangout, Epstein wrote, "Nice to see you, please come more often," and Pritzker replied, "Always fun." And then we have Larry Page, who co-founded Google, and new records show Page's chief pilot reached out to Epstein's team in 2010 to see if he could borrow Epstein's helicopter over the holidays. And Epstein was prepared to charge him $56,000 for a 1-week rental, but Page ultimately decided to travel to St. Bart's by boat. I think examples like this are important to include because it shows how crazy Epstein's lifestyle really was. If you want to see the complete list of every single billionaire in the new Epstein files, we just put that out on our Substack. And my co-host Mabel and I are about to record another dump of Epstein findings and analysis for our YouTube channel, so don't forget to subscribe because that will be out tomorrow. And as always, follow to stay in the loop.
Man.
Elm Guest House was only one of the places in the UK where there has been a child abuse blackmail ring just like Epstein's Island. It was thought to be just a gay hotel until neighbours started noticing a frequent influx of boys as young as 10 entering and leaving during parties, and brochures promoting the guest house high-end video studio. They also noticed luxury cars arriving frequently, which was unusual for the area. Police later confirmed it was used for adult sexual activity, including prostitution, and its owners were convicted of running a disorderly house. Allegations emerged claiming the Elm Guest House was more than just an adult venue and instead the centre of a secret abuse network involving underage boys and powerful figures from the British establishment. Children from care homes across the country were brought to the guest house to be abused, and images were taken to be used for blackmail and to gather intelligence against members of the establishment, which is why this story was covered up by police, politicians and intelligence services. A man named Richard Kerr came out and spoke about his experiences on Channel 4, but admitted he was afraid to name any names due to fear of losing his life and being previously threatened to not speak about the situation. Another man named Brian Gemmell, a former British intelligence officer attempting to blow the whistle, believes the case is being covered up by the establishment. Brian put in an official report to a senior MI5 officer but was told to stop digging and forget about it.
The 13 bloodlines that run the world. Look up. This is not even no theory, y'all. You can look up the 25 banks that own everything. Everything. And, we feel like we're doing something because, we find out, who Rockefeller is and, we find out who the Rothschilds are. And we're like, man, figured it out. No. All of them are just puppets. You think the government and the politicians are puppets? Well, even the Illuminati's puppets. It's something much darker behind all of that. It doesn't matter if somebody calls you crazy. It really doesn't. At this point, the shit that's finna happen, the shit that they finna do, you think people calling you crazy is the worst that could happen? You got 2 different types of people. You got the people that are like, that doesn't make sense. Like, explain that to me. You got people like that. Don't turn those people away. And then you got some people that are just like, this is stupid, you fucking idiot, this is dumb. Like, don't even smack them people. Like, it's a waste of time. They're angry because they can't even express themselves. They don't have the vocabulary or the knowledge to express themselves. If you let yourself become entangled with those people, then you're just letting the same negative parasitic entity feed off of your energy and siphon off your energy that's using them. With trolls, like, fuck the trolls.
This is why they cancel him. He's way too talented to not be making music anymore.
Well, what you don't know is that the human race is being manipulated by a higher power that you can't see.
Is that the Archons?
Yeah, the archons. Yeah.
And the Muslims call them the jinn.
Yeah, that's exactly right. The jinn. There's human sacrifice in California, in Los Angeles. There's human sacrifice.
Have you heard that that is actually real?
Oh, God, yeah, of course. There's human sacrifice goes on continually in Hollywood. It's human sacrifice. Children are being sacrificed.
Why?
It's simple. It's very simple. Because if they are going to help you, they can help you. The spirits have powers and know knowledge and powers and technology you don't know anything about. And so if he gives me, if I make a deal with him, I'll give him my body and my life and my soul. If you will give to me what I want to be able to do what you do. I want to dazzle people with.
But why would you need to sacrifice another human or a child to gain that knowledge?
That's because it's always been that way in religion. Anytime you go to a god in any religion and ask for something that he would give you, he wants something back. And so it's always been that way. Why do all the races of the world have gods that they sacrifice to? It's like the mafia. It's like underworld organization.
Except a follower of Jesus Christ who died for us.
This painting hides some of the strangest creatures in Western art. Most people never notice them. Painted around 1790 by the Anglo-Swiss artist Henry Fuseli, this is Titania and Bottom from Shakespeare's A Midsummer Night's Dream. Start in the centre, a beautiful fairy queen tenderly embracing a man with the head of a donkey. That is Titania, and Bottom, a mischievous sprite, gave the man an ass's head and drugged the queen with a love potion so she would wake and adore the first thing she saw. She is in love with a monster and she cannot see it. That is the joke Shakespeare wrote. But Fuseli fills the edges with things Shakespeare never wrote. Now look at the old woman on the right, hooded, sinister.
Ew.
In her hands, a tiny newborn figure. The Tate tells us she is holding a changeling, freshly made out of wax, a false child, moulded to be swapped for a real one. Now look to the left, at the group of children. They look sweet, they are not. These are artificial beings, created by witches, little manufactured people. And look among them, at the small girl with the head of a butterfly. Now look at the very centre, on Bottom's open hand. A tiny man, standing upright in his palm, staring back out with a strange, defiant look. Fuseli filled the edges of this painting with invented, unsettling little figures Shakespeare never wrote. A wax changeling, witch-made children, a tiny man in a giant's hand. All of it circling one story about a queen who cannot see the truth in front of her. And here is the unsettling part. Fuseli painted this at the height of rumours that he was fueling his imagination with opium. Whether that is true or not, this is what the painting feels like. A beautiful dream with something deeply wrong moving at the edges. Most people will look at this and see a Shakespeare fairy scene. You now see a nightmare hiding inside a love story. And that is exactly what the hidden language of symbols was made to help you find. Link in my...
This is disturbing but fascinating at the same time.
CERN just shut down the Large Hadron Collider until 2030, and now the cornucopia is back. So on June 29th, the LHC was shut down for a 4-year-long upgrade, but people online are already saying that reality feels different. Ever since the shutdown, I'm seeing people say that time is starting to feel normal again instead of being stuck on fast forward. Others say they feel like a weight has lifted. Their senses are sharper, the sky is clearer, they're finally getting restful sleep and dreaming again, they're not waking up with headaches, and even some with a constant ringing in their ears has suddenly stopped. Now leave a comment if you've experienced any of this, because apparently a lot of people are noticing it, including me. But what actually is CERN and what is the LHC? Well, CERN is the European Organization for Nuclear Research, founded in 1954, based near Geneva on the Swiss-French border. The Large Hadron Collider is the world's largest particle accelerator, a roughly 17-mile underground loop where physicists smash particles together near the speed of light to study and find out the true nature of reality and discover things like the Higgs boson or God particle. Before the LHC was first fired up in 2008, there were a lot of people online worried that it was going to create something like a black hole that would destroy the Earth.
Ooh.
It didn't, but the weird part is that after they first turned it on, a lot of people say that reality started feeling off. People said time started to feel faster, and the world in general kept getting stranger and more chaotic. This was also around the time when the Mandela effect seemed to start, and people have speculated that somehow CERN has caused this and made us to jump into different timelines, and that's why people are remembering things differently. And here's something else interesting. Every few years, the LHC enters a major shutdown for repairs or upgrades, and shortly after, strange or global events seem to follow. Most notably, the first time it was shut down was right after the first tests, and the global financial crisis of 2008 happened. And the last time it shut down, well, that happened right before the pandemic started in 2020. Now, I'm not saying that CERN caused any of this, but when you run the world's largest particle accelerator trying to crack open the secrets of the universe while also doing mock rituals like this on your campus at night, people are going to start to ask questions. Now, what is this new shutdown for? Well, they're shutting it down until 2030 to upgrade it to the high luminosity LHC, which is said to be 10 times more powerful. Now, it's probably all just coincidence, and that cornucopia image, well, I ran it through a few AI detectors and got mixed results, so who knows exactly, but if the last decade is any indication, we might be in for a wild ride when they turn the LHC back on.
Watch this. At one of Beyoncé's concerts, a girl screamed during a moment of complete silence. By breaking the show's unspoken rules, she disrupted a moment that was supposed to be absolutely silent. The entire audience turned to her abruptly, as if she had violated something sacred. It is believed that Beyoncé herself insists on complete silence, because it is at that moment that a special mystical atmosphere is created. Against this backdrop, the girl's scream sounded especially out of place. Fans are convinced that the singer's performances are filled with hidden symbols, gestures resembling Illuminati signs, and very strange coincidences. One of the most talked about moments happened at the Super Bowl, when Beyoncé's face for a split second took on a creepy, unnatural grimace. Some believe it's just a coincidence, others think it's yet another sign of her mysterious aura.
She's a witch. What if the old world was far more advanced than we've been told? All across the world, we find enormous stone buildings that seem almost impossible for their time. Cathedrals stretching hundreds of feet into the sky, massive train stations, capitol buildings, libraries, entire cities filled with architecture so intricate that many of those details would be incredibly expensive to reproduce today. According to history, these structures were built with horses, wooden scaffolding, and hand tools. But when you actually look at them, another question begins to emerge. How did civilizations separated by thousands of miles all possess the same extraordinary level of engineering, stonemasonry, and architectural precision? Then there are the airships. For a brief period in the late 1800s and early 1900s, they filled the skies above major cities around the world. Then, almost as quickly as they appeared, they vanished. But perhaps the greatest mystery isn't the airships, it's the buildings beneath them. Some researchers have proposed that these massive stone structures weren't simply buildings at all. They may have been designed to interact with the Earth's natural electrical environment, using towering spires, conductive metals, and the atmosphere itself to access a form of energy that has since been forgotten. A form of energy that some have referred to as the ether. If that's true, then these structures weren't just architectural masterpieces. They may have been part of an energy system unlike anything we use today.
Most people don't know these exist. Deep shafts, like the new ones, are not uncommon in Egypt. Most of us learn about the pyramids first, and then maybe some temple stuff. But on the causeway leading up to the middle pyramid, there is at least 5 of these shafts. These go deep into the ground. Some of them hit the water table. They're weird shapes. We may not even know about all of them because 1% of Giza is excavated. Most people don't hear about them because there's no good explanation for why they exist in the first place. It, of course, gets weirder. The causeway itself is hollow. If you walk on it, you'll find cracks and you can put sand in there and it just will keep filling up. It is made of enormous stones that serve as the roof. It was tiled on top too. Ancient builders didn't even care if you saw how big the rock was that they moved, which is also not uncommon. The most famous and mysterious shaft in this whole place is the Osiris shaft under the causeway. It's 3 levels and once held these guys. Sarcophagi similar to the Serapeum. What's really weird is one of them's made out of dacite, which is not found anywhere in Africa. They somehow dropped this 40-ton box in there. Third level somehow fills up perfectly with water and has a sarcophagus in the middle. Nothing was ever found in it. Go over to the Step Pyramid. There is a shaft in the middle of the Step Pyramid that goes straight into the bedrock and one right next to it. By far, the craziest place was discovered using a similar technology that they used to discover this. It's called Hawara. The top of the site absolutely destroyed. Underground, a labyrinth that is 18 meters deep on the first level and 40 meters deep for the second level. The entire complex isn't even fully mapped yet. The area that we know is 51 football fields large, with 5 chambers the size of Olympic swimming pools. We are quite literally just scratching the surface of what we know here. We just so happen to be standing at the entrance to the rabbit hole.
Pyramids were ancient data centers.
Okay, why the jinn from the Quran is plasma. Yes, the fourth state of matter. So plasma is known as the fourth state of matter. It's an ionized gas, but it is also a mystical, magical substance that is neutral, much like the jinn. The jinn are also known as genies, and they're not innately good or bad. The first interesting comparison is that the jinn are kind of drawn a lot with electricity and fire. Plasma, a symbol for it, is also burning fire. Look up ball lightning. Also, very interesting, birds have a lot to do with plasma. They're supposedly the messengers of plasma and speak the language of sound, which is plasma. Also, like plasma, jinn are composed of thin and subtle bodies. Plasma, for those of you who are obsessed with it like me, you'll know plasma is subtle energy. They can also be called on for protection or magical aid. The same goes for plasma beings that are known as angels, interdimensional beings, archetypes. You can call on these things for help as well. Very much the same thing. At least I think. We've seen connections. Also, jinn means to hide or adapt. Plasma means to form. These two things in the same are shapeshifters. They form and are molded based on our consciousness and our cultural beliefs. So if you're full of fear, you're going to see something bad with the jinn. If you're full of love, you're probably going to see something good, more like an angel. They're all thought forms, and they reflect based on your state of mind. This is why you have more nightmares and see more ghosts and have more hauntings when you're in a state of fear and anxiety. Just like in every horror movie, once the trauma is fixed, the fear goes away for the most part. They also talk about how the jinn can be my dog. They also talk about how the jinn can be invoked for magical ceremonies, for rituals, also for protection. This is just like plasma, which is the neutral substance that you can literally call in using your consciousness for protection, for divination, for rituals. Your beliefs create this world. But remember, just like the jinn, plasma is also sentient and has its own beliefs. Whether it's our future selves or other beings, I do not know. But it has a higher perspective that we can plug into, that we're already plugged into, but we can choose to expand into to receive the same kind of knowledge it has. It is very similar to the daimon or the inner genius, which also is just like the jinn or genie, which has to do with our inner voice or our higher self or our heart, our soul. This is also plasma. It's our inner plasma, what our soul is made out of. And it's how we connect to this outside source, which is the same thing, as above, so below, to gain higher knowledge and an expanded perspective. It's usually when we remove our cultural and societal beliefs and our limiting beliefs that we can plug into this observer knowledge. Or
everyone pretending demons and evil don't exist. Not all spirits are good.
I kind of hit ground zero for giants, which is the island of Sardinia. Many people don't realize this about Sardinia, but Sardinia has the most megaliths anywhere on Earth. There are these massive megalithic towers called nuraghi that were constructed conventionally by the Nuragic civilization. And there are today still at least 7,000 of these things standing. You can go to Sardinia and see 7,000 nuraghi towers. There were at one time 10 to 30,000 of these megalithic towers. And some of these towers stood over 100 feet tall.
So what is the timeline of this neurologic?
It's the Bronze Age.
Yeah, the Bronze Age. So what is that?
3300 BC to about 1200 BC.
Is he the last president?
Wow. Is he the last president?
Starting to shape up like that, huh? He came out with a 2028 hat on.
So Trump, he had a correspondence dinner. I'm assuming it's the one that it went down before where the guy tried to
Well, it was in the book.
Take him out. They caught him.
The one that magically was able to get past security somehow?
Right, exactly. That part. Weird. I guess this is the makeup for it. And basically, they had the same magician there.
Wait, they had a magician?
Yeah.
What is this, like a kid's party?
Well, he had a hypnotist.
What is this, a kid's party? I'm a magician.
Let's play this because I want to show everybody exactly what he said. Now, people are saying that he's joking. He's not joking.
He's not.
Because he said, I got cheated out of the last one, 2020. So this is actually my fourth term.
It's the soft launch, guys. That's what it's called. It's called the soft launch.
That's exactly what he said. This is his fourth term.
Yeah. Ha, ha, ha. And so, wait, hold on. Oh, this motherfucker's serious.
He's serious.
My intention to run for a fourth term as president of the United States. I will be doing that. I will be having an official. In fact, I think I have. I won 3 times. Now I'm going to do it again.
What? Really? 2028?
He's not joking. He already had the hat made.
That's the funny part.
And it's my third term. And it's a character.
It is.
Just listening to him speak is just like, all right. He just emphasized like his character so much. You could tell you can't take this seriously.
I wish I had a Trump. I ain't got a Trump. I can't do it.
I already won the third term. We're going to go for a fourth term.
We're going for the fourth term.
Billions and billions. Billions of dollars.
The cool shit is, if you go too far, it turns into Macho Man Randy Savage.
Literally gonna say he's like teetering Macho Man Randy Savage. The 22nd Amendment says no president shall be elected twice. Keyword elected.
So what you're saying is if a president suspends the Constitution, if a president steps down, or a VP steps up like JD Vance, he steps down, he becomes president again.
It doesn't say you can't serve, or it doesn't say you can't hold office. It says you can't be elected twice.
Yes, that's
a
tricky
key word.
Yeah,
elected.
That's a tricky wordplay.
So the cool shit is, you're talking about if he actually wants to play musical chairs, he just has to be in the seat before the music ends.
Leonardo, I'm not fucking leaving.
Man.
I had done pornography from 18 to 25 years old. Yeah, at first I was enjoying it because the money was rolling in. I understand why women sit and go, maybe I should make an OnlyFans. I mean, I was making probably, it could be anywhere from 30 to 50,000. I was more so treating it somewhat as a business, but that didn't last long. That empowered feeling, it fades. When you continue to objectify yourself, sooner or later, you will feel it. It takes a toll on your soul. In my time of being in the industry, I only knew 2 women that didn't use drugs. I mean, I've seen women like pounding back bottles of alcohol, and it's so crazy because the porn activists, oh, these women are empowered. They love what they're doing. In my head, I'm thinking, yeah, she's not as happy and empowered as you think she is. Like, I've seen her have to get wasted just to do the scene that you think she's enjoying.
Did you know that black people were looked at as a delicacy in Europe? You're not going to believe this.
But you're wondering, what did I just watch? This is what you're looking at. And I quote, pictures of the Swedish cultural minister cutting a cake designed like an African tribal woman has caused widespread anger and prompted one organization to demand her resignation. So what you are looking at is an art exhibit of the artist McCall dressing up as a racist character and participating in the humiliation, mutilation, and cannibalism of this black woman for the amusement of Caucasian Swedish people. However, this is not the first time in history that Europeans have shown fascination with what many would regard as a bizarre fetish. You would have to ask yourself, as an Afro-Swedish resident, why would you feel comfortable in a room full of Caucasians to dress up as a racist caricature when outside is the Hamburg's Moor, which screams nothing but elegancy of the black race? And what you can also find outside is the Child Eater Fountain. And this is historically accurate, but what you would never see is a Caucasian man in a room full of Africans dressed up as the Child Eater Fountain. This is my next source, Europeans' hypocritical history of cannibalism. And I quote, these first-hand stories agree that in 1098, after a successful siege and capture of the Syrian city Mara, Christian soldiers ate the flesh of local Muslims. Part of the problem was cannibalism at Mara simply didn't fit in with the European self-image. In medieval times, cultural enemies, not military or religious heroes, were commonly depicted as cannibals or giants, especially in narratives of territorial invasions and conquests. So those wild man giants that you see attacking and consuming black people were real people. And yes, these were black kings, black queens, black knights, and they ruled all over Europe. And I quote, while Europeans ate mummies to cure their physical ailments, the same culture sent missionaries and colonists to the New World to cure New World indigenous people of their purported barbaric cannibalism, some of which was entirely fabricated as a rationale for conquest, Bauer says. It is certainly possible that Europeans were consuming more human flesh at the time than people in the New World.
Child endangerment groups revolted against this woman's art, and everyone in the media said they were crazy. Now, I can't show this, but let's take this one. This shows a small person, what looks to be a child, with their hands tied behind their backs, being forced to perform an act on an adult. This is the artist Miriam Khan, and the media, the museums, and her all said that that painting I just showed you is symbolism for the Russia and Ukraine conflict. Okay, maybe. This one that depicts something rather similar was described as our values. Now, I can't even show a lot of her paintings because I have to block the entire thing out anyway, but with this one, we have another very similar painting. Now, all of these paintings are sold to very high-class people ranging between $20,000 and $250,000, with her highest sale going over $700,000. Remember now, the statements from the media and the museums and her says none of these paintings involve children, but that kind of looks like children to me. They are said to show vulnerability and conflicts of war. But I mean, now I think war is terrible, and to symbolize war with a horrible, terrible act, okay, I could maybe see that, but who the hell is buying this stuff and hanging it up in their house?
Disgusting. This is how all things labeled art are not.
Right now, a 20-year-old British woman is in a Thai prison facing death by lethal injection after her partner was found stabbed to death in Pattaya. She denies wrongdoing, but under Thai law, intentional murder carries the death penalty. An Aussie guy from WA is currently facing the exact same fate for a separate murder charge. Australia abolished the death penalty in 1985, but our favourite holiday spots like Thailand still use it. Japan is now the #1 destination for Aussie tourists, but their legal system is brutal. They can lock you up for 23 days without a single formal charge or a lawyer in the room. The most common traps for tourists are drug possession and theft. Singapore uses death by hanging for murder and drug trafficking, and we all know what happened to the Bali 9 ringleaders who were executed by firing squad in Indonesia. Your passport won't protect you. If you ever get into legal trouble over at any of these places, the rules are simple. Shut up, refuse to sign anything that isn't in English, and demand to speak to the Australian Embassy immediately.
Here's a tip. Don't break the law while traveling.
This is the real plan that's been running since the 1850s, and it's barreling toward World War III. Back then they targeted two prizes, Palestine and Argentina. Palestine for control of the Middle East, Argentina, especially Patagonia, for a final refuge when the world burns. They took Palestine. Done. Now comes the Isaac Accords, Argentina's quiet surrender, turning it into an Israeli colony in all but name. Right now, they're burning Argentina down, wildfires everywhere, and buying the scorched land cheap. The tool, their fake NGO, that's Backpackers Without Borders, so-called backpackers, like with maps and cameras, supposedly mapping trails. In reality, they're intelligence operatives marking targets, befriending locals while they plan which part of the Patagonia to burn next. Why? Because the deal is sealed. Milei told Netanyahu, mi casa es su casa. If Nuremberg-style trials ever come for Israel, they've got their escape hatch here, just like the Nazis had in the 1940s. And the endgame? Nuclear World War III. Fallout winds blow east-west across the northern hemisphere, Europe, America, Asia. Devastated. Patagonia sits at the bottom of the planet, next to Antarctica. You do the math. They've got more in common with the Nazis than anyone wants to believe. The perfect arc for the new empire while the North chokes on ash. So, this is it.
Oh my gosh, okay. Do you want to be a literal wizard? Well, guess what? You can be.
Nope.
There's an actual Hogwarts in America. It is in Faber, Virginia, and they teach you how to bend spoons, go out of your body, and use your consciousness to travel to other levels of the multiverse. I went there, and I'm going to tell you about it. And if you're like, oh, I've heard of this place maybe? Yes, maybe in the CIA papers that have gone viral about the Gateway process, the CIA was indeed interested in them and studied the Monroe Institute and went there. Yes, this is the same one, and it still exists, and you can go. And I'm going to tell you about their programs, which are so cool. Basically, it was founded by this guy named Robert A. Monroe. He was a businessman, he was smart, and he wrote a book called Journeys Out of the Body and a lot of others based on how all of a sudden, after his middle life, he started to go out of his body. This is actually the one I just attended and got back from. It's called the OBE Spectrum. For me, this was well worth it. This included room and board, 3 meals a day, yoga, meeting the best people I've ever met in my life. Because you spiritual people know how lonely it is sometimes. We need metaphysical kooky friends, and it's the perfect place to meet them. And you get to learn the program. I saved up for it, and it was worth it. And I'm going back. They have more programs. So this one teaches you how to have an out-of-body experience. It talks about the different kinds. There's
Isn't that witchcraft?
Location where your consciousness is in 2 places at once. There's actually out of the body where you could see yourself and you're on the ceiling and you're like, whoa, you can put your hand through walls. You can fly to other places. Like people have done this and you learn the tools here. And some people have the out of bodies there. Some have it 30 days after. I experienced bilocation several times there. You also learn about lucid dreaming. I did almost go out of my body. I went like a third out and then I got scared, which they teach you to deal with. These are some of the friends I met. I can't show the video of everyone because it's secret, but you meet people your age. And a lot of older, wiser people too. Okay, so the rest of their programs. For all the people that are like, I want to do this from home. I don't want to travel to Virginia. Spoon bending they have. You literally learn how to bend spoons.
Spoon bending?
Once you see that it's possible and real, your mind will not only, I can't speak today. Your mind will not only blow open, but you'll probably want to actually go there and learn more about what it is called psychokinesis. Turning on light bulbs with your energy, bending spoons, more. And they have a program called MC Square that does just that. That's my next one I'm interested in. They also have a lucid dreaming course. Once again, this includes room and board, food, and the program. Gateway Voyage Online is Monroe Institute's latest program. Basically, it's a fraction of the cost of the one you go to in person. You gotta go to all these different focus levels. I went and I literally saw holographic beings in my bed. It was more psychic, more abundant. And the best part is then you can take all their other programs because you already took the foundation course. Code Dana the Alien, you can get 10% off. Comment Gateway, and I'll send you the link.
The younger the soul, the more innocent the soul, because they've had less chance to sin. So the more innocent the soul that they sacrifice, the more power in the sacrifice. And that was told to me, again, by a practicing Satanist. When they kill the child and they've brought them to total fear, if they eat the flesh, then they, of course, acquire the child's awareness, his uniqueness, and, his IQ, his courage, his whatever.
I've been told by a woman who was born into the movement and was in it for more than 15 years that there are several hundred satanic groups across the nation that practice human and animal sacrifice. In all walks of life, doctors, lawyers, airline pilots, educators. I have been told of one superintendent of schools who's a practicing Satanist. They also are very heavy into mind control, and they pass this on from generation to generation. In other words, they'll have a whole family that'll practice Satan worshiping. They take those kids and they raise them. It's like the mind control in Vietnam, but the communists have used in the past. They also incinerate. They have the cremators, and they destroy the body. There's no evidence.
In 2017, they aired this commercial during the Super Bowl, and again, they decided to feature a cult. In this Super Bowl commercial, a group of world elites are sitting in a secret underground bunker discussing common theories found on the internet. They are heard saying some really interesting things. The joke is that they're trying to figure out who leaked the secret that avocados have good fat. But again, the advertisement itself doesn't seem to be focused on avocados, but on showing this secretive imagery. The fact that they paid millions of dollars to place this ad with this specific messaging at the Super Bowl is a very interesting marketing choice. Why would they promote their brand to millions of people with a commercial about a secret group controlling the world? It almost comes off like they are obsessed with branding themselves this way, depicting their company like an exaggerated representation of these groups in these commercials. You can watch this full episode now on my YouTube channel, The Truth Is. The link is in my bio or in my story.
Why are Chinese consumers boycotting Louis Vuitton? LV took Chinese tea chain Molly Tea to court, claiming its 4-petal logo copied LV's iconic monogram, a pattern the French house has used since 1896. But here's the twist. Critics say that flower isn't originally French at all, but that it resembles Baoxianghua, a Chinese decorative motif dating back to the Tang dynasty over 1,000 years ago.
Wow.
It's not a real flower, but an idealized design blending the lotus, peony, and chrysanthemum, originally tied to Buddhist art and once used to decorate temples, silk robes, and imperial porcelain. Molly Tea's founders say their logo drew directly from this heritage. Still, in July, a Suzhou court sided with LV, ruling that Molly Tea's logo was too close to LV's registered trademark. Molly Tea was ordered to pay 10.3 million yuan, about $1.5 million US, apologize publicly, and change its logo. The ruling sparked outrage on Chinese social media, drawing more than 400 million views on Weibo. Now, boycott calls against Louis Vuitton are spreading, as many accuse the brand of trying to monopolize a pattern that's belonged to Chinese culture for centuries, and using the courts to claim ownership over something that predates it entirely.
This man pissed off 50% of their clientele? Good luck, LV.
Man is probably one of the most interesting people you will ever know about. In the last video, I covered a bit about his upbringing and also his legendary wrestling career, and yes, that's Hulk Hogan, where he fought Muhammad Ali one-on-one, as well as Ric Flair in a super fight in North Korea. Later on, he became a politician, and in one of his speeches, he got stabbed, and he continued to do the speech for 10 minutes until going to the hospital. And the next day, people thought he would take the day off, but he showed up like this to a sports event. And he also personally flew into Iraq to release hostages that Saddam Hussein held by holding a sports peace festival. And he later became a meme. But why? See, in 1989, after his prime in his wrestling career, he decided to do something no other wrestler has done and run for parliament in Japan with his party called the Sports and Peace Party. His whole philosophy was that he wanted to achieve world peace by bringing sports to people. Because he was such a huge pop culture icon, he won like 1 million votes and he was voted in. He became a senator in the House of Councillors of Japan. Fast forward to 1990, Saddam Hussein invades Kuwait and holds a bunch of Japanese hostages. Since the Japanese government really couldn't do anything and had no leverage over what was going on in Iraq, he decides to go on a mission himself where he funds everything and even brings the hostages' families with him to try to negotiate a peace deal. He even converted to Islam and changed his name to Mohammed Hussein Inoki because he thought this would have better chances when negotiating with the Iraqi government. So he lands in Iraq, and this is an actual photo of his sports peace festival that he threw and invited Saddam's government. After the festival, there was really no response right away, so he decides to leave, but is begged by one of the Japanese hostage families to stay a couple more days. And Uday Hussein, Saddam Hussein's son, personally calls out Antonio to tell him that he will release the hostages, and he also apologized that he was holding on to them for too long. And his mission was a success. He was able to release Japanese hostages and bring them home. This is literally what his political party was preaching. It was sports and peace. The crazier part about this is that after his first stint in politics, he decides to go back to wrestling and fight Don Fry. Yeah, that guy from that video. He also helped the Japanese soccer league that was suffering from no viewership by essentially flying out to Brazil and hiring Zico, a legendary soccer player, to come coach one of the teams. And later Zico ended up coaching the World Cup Japanese team. Stay tuned for part 3 because this guy's lore goes really deep. I haven't even talked about him and Fidel Castro yet.
Man,
he found his wife with her own
This is crazy, folks.
son. This is pretty messed up.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Daniel. Me and you are together. I'm sorry.
I'm done with all this. I'm
I'm done.
How long are you doing?
I can't.
Did you see it?
Yes, I was in there when he was doing it.
Why didn't you stop him?
I can't. He's too big.
The man in front of me is 19-year-old Casey crying and wanting to hug his
That's 19 years old?
father.
Wow.
Just a short while ago, he woke up to a sight he could never have imagined. His mother and older brother in bed, engaged in something unspeakable. In a state of shock, he ran out of the house and called 911 from a neighbor's home. Moments later, a police officer arrived at the scene and saw the father standing barefoot on the street.
I just walked in and found my freaking wife and her son having sex. Okay. I'm 100% serious. She's drunk as all get out. He was too, and he just left. What's he wearing?
My daughter just lives right there. That's probably where he's at.
Okay, 7 minutes for other road.
The father told the officer that he had just returned home from work and was horrified to find his 45-year-old wife and 27-year-old son in bed together. Unable to process what he had seen, he ran out of the house barefoot. His wife was still lying in bed while his son hurriedly got dressed and ran to the other side of the block.
Crystal. He left. And she's sitting there, she's saying, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? I got cops in here tonight.
The officer called out to the mother several times, but there was no response. It was unclear whether she was asleep or unwilling to answer. Meanwhile, the father was outside, frantically calling everyone he knew.
He's drunk as shit, but I don't know if she was so fucking drunk, didn't know it, and he fucking raped her or something. I don't know. I have no idea.
Okay, just hang out here for me for a minute, if you don't mind, or in the garage so you don't get rained on.
At this point, the younger son, who had run to the neighbor's house to report the incident, came back crying. It was clear that the terrifying image he had just witnessed had deeply shaken him.
Well, that's one hell of a situation to be in. But you know what blows my mind with this case? And you won't have known this. The comments on this video are actually the most diabolical things I think I've ever seen in my life. Because half of the people are actually saying, yeah, this is good. Like, what's the crime? There's nothing wrong with this. Huh? Sorry?
What?
Now, please let me know your thoughts, but this is disturbing. And I mean, I feel terrible for the other son and even the father. Imagine seeing that.
The hills have eyes meets deliverance.
There are secret, hidden, underground cities, which begs the question, who built them and why did they build these cities that are deep underground? What were these people hiding from? This video, of course, is for entertainment purposes only. I'm speaking about Cappadocia. I've never been there, and more than likely, I will never journey there, but it was on the bucket list. I would love to see it. There's a labyrinth, a structure, and these passageways, and there are layers of it. They go down several stories. It's a monumental effort to build something like this. The question is, why did these people feel it so necessary to construct this underground hidden city? Because it was, when you're on top of the surface, you don't see anything. There's like a couple of entryways that in antiquity were concealed. If you didn't know it was there, you'd walk right by it. Folks, there's a hidden history that's been deliberately obfuscated from the peoples of the world. I am L.A. Marzulli.
Mexico, when you talk about the cartel, Jews.
There were people from Israel. They came over here and trained Santiago Mesa, but later on, digging more in the information, one of the leaders of the cartel was sent to Israel to be trained of how to decompose the bodies and also how to make the drainage system. Can you explain that?
Yeah.
What?
In 1985, Elefra, he go to Israel in training to dissolve bodies in acid, and then when he back to Mexico, he come together with other person to Israel, to Tijuana. And then...
So he came from Israel with people from Israel to Tijuana?
Yeah, to Tijuana. And then together to Israel and El Pozolero working together.
They trained him?
They trained him. Efra back to Mexico, and then dissolve bodies in acid, and then pick it up to El Pozolero, and both Efra and Israeli training to Santiago Mesa.
I've seen Israeli soldiers. They're the ones teaching them how to burn people in acid and hide the bodies that they killed.
Most people don't know how connected they are to the cartels. There was, I think it was like 43 or something students disappeared. It was big national news in Mexico. All of a sudden, this one guy, the investigator for it, they started investigating him and realized he was part of the cartels. They're about to arrest him, but they couldn't stop it because it's such big national news. He fled to Israel, and Israel took him in. Now, why would Israel take a Mexican cartel leader in? Not even Jewish. Yep.
Why do so many people, when they microdose, suddenly want to go outside in nature? It's not just because the weather is nice. Microdosing seems to sanction mushroom-powered forest walks, also known as forest bathing. Psychonauts also call it microdosing. Studies have found that psilocybin experiences can leave people feeling more connected to nature even weeks or months later. The explanation for this that's most directly supported by pharmacology is psilocybin's ability to activate 5-HT2A serotonin receptors, which help regulate perception, emotion, and openness to new experiences. Therefore, it can make naturally awe-inspiring moments like being in nature feel even more emotionally impactful. Scientists also think psilocybin disrupts the brain's habitual overthinking, making it easier to become fully present with your surroundings. The texture of the tree bark, the sound of the birds, the movement of the leaves, you stop walking past it and start taking it in. Researchers call this nature relatedness, which is a strong feeling that you're part of the natural world rather than separate from it. Feeling more connected to nature has been linked to lower stress, lower blood pressure, reduced anxiety, and depression. It's no wonder Japan has been prescribing forest bathing for decades. Follow for more simplified fungi facts.
What do you think's going to happen in the UK? Any big changes, or is it going to keep going down this road?
Did you see the intel from the ex-MI6 agent?
No, what happened?
It broke that there's around 80,000 jihadi-trained soldiers, allegedly, within the United Kingdom, waiting for the go word, and the Albanians have been supplying firearms to them over the last, 5 to 10 years. They're storing the firearms and the ammo in the mosques, so people can't go in and search, even during wartime. It's like a rule.
Wow.
Yeah, and I mean, given the amount of men and migrants that have flooded to the UK in the last 15 years, I'm extremely concerned about the safety of everyone in the United Kingdom, because we gave up our firearms in 1997. So let's say, for example, the general British public have no firearms, no way to protect themselves. And then we have 80,000 soldiers already embedded within the United Kingdom, and they come out with firearms. What do you think is going to happen?
So I found probably the most important documentary that you've never heard of. And why is it important? Because it does a fantastic job of explaining all of this stuff. It's called The Cosmogony of Three Worlds. After discovering the large-scale terraforming of the Earth, I was able to develop a historic timeline that was represented by these three technical eras. And while sharing all this information with you guys, I've definitely been accused of stealing people's work. And being an honest actor, every time I investigated that, it always came up empty. They were always misunderstanding my work. Well, this is the first time that I've ever come across anybody who has ever said anything that I'm saying. So technically, this guy said it first, and he deserves the credit. What did he say first? Well, he talked about the three worlds, the three technical eras. And really, he identified them the same way I did. I mean, he was looking at the same stuff. This documentary is so important that we're going to review each section together and discuss all the things that they said. This man spent 60 years working across multiple scientific disciplines, investigating these areas, and he concluded that there is a very clear separation in the stone at these ancient megalithic sites. But the documentary opens up discussing ancient calendars that have been identified through archaeology. And some of these calendars aren't 365 days. In fact, the earliest known calendars are only 225 days. And there are some other calendars that happen to be 260 days. And in the more recent calendars, like the very well-known Mayan calendar, well, it happens to be 365 days. But what's interesting about that is the previous 360 and 325 days are both recorded in that one calendar. They go on to theorize that the reason for this is the possibility that the Earth may have been closer to the Sun and the orbit was a little bit different. Now, I know a bunch of people will reject that because of the flat Earth stuff and whatever. We don't know. The point is that there are archaeological calendars that are in three different categories with three different year ranges. And ultimately, the belief is that these three separate years actually correlate to the different building techniques found at these ancient megalithic sites. Finally, the author points out that the constant threes that we see in ancient archaeology happen to represent these three eras or these three worlds. It can be seen in the step motifs or in the pyramids. There's three pyramids, or even other structures across the world all have these 3 rings, to include Atlantis. So in part 2, we're going to go to the next step of this documentary and discuss the first world, or the first technical era, as I've coined it.
The most iconic superhero costumes ever made were actually designed by this Mexican-American artist, Jose Fernandez.
That's crazy.
He grew up fascinated by comic books and special effects and turned that childhood passion into a Hollywood career. He actually got his start working in special effects makeup and eventually opened up Ironhead Studios in LA, a company that has become Hollywood's go-to for superhero costumes. And over the last 3 decades, his studio has designed or built costumes for Hollywood's biggest blockbuster movies, like Batman, Captain America, Thor, Black Panther, Iron Man, Fantastic Four, and X-Men. Each suit starts as a sculpture before being transformed into lightweight armor that actors can perform in. The reason why his studio is the go-to for many Hollywood films is because they specialize in blending art, engineering, and filmmaking into one design. His work has helped define what modern superheroes look like, and yet his name is largely unknown. And Jose Fernandez proves that representation isn't always in front of the camera. Sometimes it's behind the scenes. And as a Latina that also loves all things superheroes, it is so refreshing to see that representation.
Yep, this is the first time I'm hearing it.
I said the real story, the original story, the one that existed for thousands of years before Genesis. TikTok's fucking up. The one that existed for thousands of years before Genesis says the woman is a healer, not a sinner. The serpent is wisdom, not evil. Knowledge is a gift, not a curse. The body is sacred, not shameful. You were born whole, not broken. The divine is inside you, not outside you, punishing you. Everything they taught you was a reversal.
This is the new age stuff, man.
Sorry, fellas.
New age,
Sorry.
yes.
And I say this to people all the time. If you just reverse everything that you see today, you will have it right. Everything is purposely backwards. So that means it's a destiny swap, doesn't it?
Spider-Man Brand New Day is filled with Masonic symbolism and truth hidden in plain sight predictive programming, and I'm about to break it down for you right now. I do think it is interesting how Tom Holland, Zendaya, and Jon Bernthal are in 2 of the biggest blockbusters of the summer at the exact same time in theaters with The Odyssey and Spider-Man Brand New Day. But we'll just leave it at that. So the movie is based around mind control, and the government, the CIA, has openly admitted to experimenting with mind control during the MK Ultra project during the Charles Manson era. One of the most obvious, of course, of every Spider-Man movie, he shoots webs whenever he makes the devil horns. Here you see the duality, as above, so below. Him showing the one eye is evil, a sign of the devil, Lucifer, Satan watching over you at all times. And of course you have the horns on top of his head. This is of course made famous, Anton LaVey, one of the founders of the Church of Satan, or the founder, made famous in the 60s with rock stars. Also, you cannot get within 33 feet of Jean Grey or else she can control your mind. Number 33 is important in Masonic symbolism. The number 33 is the highest level of degrees of the Scottish Rite, and also you have 33 vertebrae in your spine. Also, Jesus died whenever he was 33, so that's why we see 33 everywhere. Another obvious one is this inhibitor chip that Peter has to put in the back of his neck, symbolizing the mark of the beast, a microchip that eventually they want to start introducing. This is more predictive programming, more truth hidden in plain sight. They're even advertising this to kids in the popcorn buckets with the RFID inhibitor chip in the back of Spider-Man's neck. Secretive handshakes with ties to Masonic symbolism. They have secret handshakes. John Bernthal plays the Punisher. Of course, he has a skull on his chest. Skull and Bones being, of course, a secret fraternity of Yale that produced a lot of US presidents. Also, I don't know what this scene was about. Jean Grey takes control of this old man's mind for no reason and kills him. He gets ran over right in front of Spider-Man. His spider senses didn't come in. He didn't save him. And as you can see, he has his hands out like he is on the cross. And of course, the damage control, aka the CIA, abducting Jean Grey's sister in broad daylight, straight up in ice fashion, and covering it up, basically killing her, experimenting on her and killing her and covering it up. Textbook CIA. Also, this kid that Spider-Man saves has this weird shirt on that kind of looks like this shirt that Ellen and Jay-Z are wearing, this hoodie that they're wearing, but I'm sure that these are just conspiracies.
Yeah, man, this movie gave me a bad
Turns
vibe.
out the real explanation for why Ozempic divorce is happening is possibly much creepier and more sinister than we first assume. And it's because Ozempic is changing people's personalities at the deepest level. The Telegraph just published an article listing a few stories to this effect, titled, "Our Spark Has Gone, the Marriages Ruined by Ozempic, as Weight Loss Jabs Flatten Libido and Trigger Sudden Personality Shifts, Long-Term Relationships Reach a Breaking Point." So there are a couple of stories here that are kind of fitting into that first example, where the person loses a bunch of weight, gets a huge ego about it, and leaves their partner because they think they deserve better. Or their partner doesn't come along with them in the journey of self-improvement. She supported Luke and he decided to try GLP-1s, but she never expected him to undergo an entire personality change while he was on them. At first, she was mostly bothered by the obvious differences from their former lives. They loved good food and sharing a bottle of wine on weekends, and she missed having a partner with an interest in those things. More concerning is his sudden apathy for life. Luke was one of those people who was up for anything. If I suggested a last-minute trip, he'd tell me to just book it because life is too short not to try new experiences. But that side of him has vanished.
All right, you guys, more nefarious work from the American food supply, and this time, it's Chipotle. It's just been reported that 110 people have fallen ill from tainted jalapenos contaminated with salmonella. Now, if you guys think this is a healthier version when it comes to fast food, think again, because you have to look at who owns these brands. And there it is. You guys do know that not only Chipotle is a publicly traded company, but is owned by none other than Vanguard. Now, they own about a little more than 11%. Then following right up is BlackRock. So you have Chipotle in the same basket as McDonald's and the Yum brands. And yes, you guys, Vanguard actually owns 10% of McDonald's and BlackRock right behind them at 8% and Yum brands as well. Now, who does Yum brands actually own? Pizza Hut, KFC, and Taco Bell. The illusion of choice. And let's not forget the explosive diarrhea saga came from Taco Bell with their lettuce, reportedly. So there's that, but I don't think you need to actually eat their lettuce to have explosive diarrhea. And it just keeps going because blueberries were actually recalled where 4 people were hospitalized for bacterial contamination. And this was the mixed berries brand coming out of Publix in Alabama, Georgia, Florida, Kentucky, North Carolina, South Carolina, Tennessee, Virginia. I mean, are we starting to see a trend here that these mega corporations are more concerned with their bottom line than public health safety? Because 10 companies control more than 50 brands. Now, I posted it just for perspective. How many food recalls have occurred this year so far? 313. And that's only a little more than midway of the year, but the FDA says it's okay. Got it. So we do realize that agencies like the FDA and USDA are the ones who greenlight what's safe when it comes to food and drugs, but also these are the same agencies that recall the contaminated food and drugs. Doesn't seem like you guys are too good at your jobs now, does it? Make sure you guys go to my YouTube, The Maverick Approach, because I'm doing a bigger breakdown there. And let me know what you guys think down below.
Stay away from all fast food. Problem solved.
I seen this video of this lady who made a TikTok outing her husband as a PDF file. And days after posting, she turned up.
Really?
Bro, this was just posted literally like last week at this point.
You're lying.
I swear. You didn't hear anything about this?
No.
This happened this year, and it was in Oklahoma to this lady named Sarah Duffy. Her and her husband, both of them were influencers. Like this dude, Jeremiah, he actually had a cool following on TikTok. He had like 300K. He was actually a youth basketball coach. Apparently, this dude, Jeremiah, was accused of having an inappropriate relationship with one of the players on his team. And even eventually, one of the other coaches caught this guy, Jeremiah, under the bleachers, groping and kissing one of the 15-year-old girls that's one of their players.
Really?
Yeah, during a tournament. The coach that caught them, they eventually call this girl's mom. Immediately, they call the police after, all this comes out. This guy, Jeremiah, just flees the scene. Police get involved. This little girl is pretty much explaining to them, like, yeah, this guy has been like texting me inappropriate stuff, was also like inviting me to his hotel room during tournaments.
Whoa.
Yeah. And he even paid me to be quiet about everything.
Wow.
After all that, police go and they're like, all right, we got to let this guy's wife know what happened. So they contact Sarah. They explain everything to her. And immediately, bro, she's like, I'm done with this guy. So she divorces him and he ends up having to move out of their house. Old girl eventually goes and makes this TikTok video. She titled the video, Preparing for When Netflix Does a Documentary on My Soon-to-Be Ex-Husband Who is a PDF file. And she posted that on the page. A couple days after she posted that, this guy storms to her house, pulls out a gun, and ends her life inside of her own home.
Wow.
Then he turns the gun on himself and ends his life as well.
Really?
Inside of that house.
What about their kid?
The kid comes downstairs, hearing all that, and finds both of his parents in the house.
Imagine with me, you want to go down to your basement, you want to renovate your basement a little bit. Imagine you find an underground city. That is the true story of this man in 1963 in Turkey. That is not just one room, that is not just one hallway, but is 18 stories deep. That is 280 feet deep. The Statue of Liberty is 300. This is the city of Derinkuyu. This place had everything. Could shelter up to 20,000 people plus livestock. They had bedrooms, kitchen, grain silos, wine presses, churches, schools, animal stables. They could live down there for months, if not years. And it's not even fully explored yet.
One theory is this was actually made pre-flood. So this was like a safe haven for the flood. Or it could have been after the flood.
Just in case.
And just in case, let's build this city. The excavated rock, they believe, was actually potentially washed away in a flood.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many possibilities. I think that's no scientists or archaeologists know exactly who built it.
Imagine all the discoveries like this that people kept a secret.
Do you know why the Korean K-pop guys look like little boys?
No.
Like little boys? It's because a Japanese man who was grew up in San Francisco, he's very rich. He loves young little boys. He went back to Japan. He's the founding father of Japanese pop.
Yeah.
So he started to get those pretty little boys to take those hormone things. So they maintain 14 years old, and all of them. But because Japanese culture is the hierarchy. They don't, even though they were. They thank him for making them famous. And then it influenced all Asia's beauty standard on men. Even you see Asian men now, the K-pop guys, they all look white skin, skinny little girls. Because this one single Japanese American shaped the beauty standard of Asian men.
Wow. Oh, she is talking about Johnny Kitagawa. Look it up.
For a decade, the death of A$AP Yams has remained a mystery. In the world of hip-hop, it's always been one of the industry's darkest conspiracy theories. People have always speculated that it was Rocky's entry fee to the 1%. No matter what you believe, we have to acknowledge that the pattern is almost too consistent to ignore. A star on the verge of global superstardom loses the one person who helped them build it. For years, those speculations were never truly proven. Until now, Ian Connor, the man who was once close to the A$AP mob, just broke the industry's unspoken code of silence. After years of running with Rocky, he's now exposing him, publicly accusing A$AP Rocky of offering up Yams as a ticket to the next level. Today, we're looking into Rocky's success since that night and investigating the evidence that suggests Ian Connor might actually be telling the truth.
A$AP Yams is the short nigga with the birthmark on his face. That's in all my videos. He made A$AP with me. He helped me with everything from the start. He's my partner.
Without the album,
or every time I'm about to release an album for some strange reason, man. I always lose somebody close to me.
This is Woody Jack Duncan. I'm deeply saddened to announce the death of one of the founders of ASAP Mob. Now, his name is ASAP Lamborghini, aka ASAP Yams.
If I put out an album, or every time I'm about to release an album for some strange reason, I always lose somebody close to me.
While at first, Rocky's dark aesthetic looked just like a look or a persona to stand out from the crowd, it eventually became evident that Rocky wasn't just playing a character. He was signaling his involvement in the dark side of the industry. His music videos didn't just have high production value, they told a clear story. From the overt occult imagery to the specific symbolism in his visuals, Rocky wasn't just doing this for shock value. He was performing rituals in front of millions. We have all heard the rumors of the industry sacrifices required to reach the 1%. But while most people dismissed it all as fan fiction, someone who was actually in the room is finally talking. Ian Connor, the fashion mogul and former ASAP Mob affiliate, has broken his silence about what he knows regarding ASAP Yams' death. And what he just dropped on social media has the entire industry looking at Rocky, wondering how could he do that to his brother. According to Ian Connor, Yams' passing wasn't just a tragic accident. He's suggesting something much more sinister took place. Ian posted this on social media. However it come, I'm at peace. Rocky killed Yams. I don't even care no more. It is what it is. I stopped speaking on certain stuff once I realized this stuff ain't a physical ego war, but more so a spiritual battle. Certain people are just no good. These words are truly eerie. He isn't just claiming Rocky was somehow behind Yams' death. He's suggesting this was a spiritual transaction. And the timing of all of this is not a coincidence. You can watch this full episode now on my YouTube channel, The Truth Is. The link is in my bio or in my story.
What is a skinwalker? A skinwalker is a shape-shifting demonic entity. It's essentially a Native American witch or warlock that sells their soul in exchange for immortality, the ability to take on the skin or shape-shift, oftentimes in the form of a wolf, a dire wolf, or a werewolf-like creature, but they can also take on the shape of other animals as well. The Native American community, they don't like to discuss it. To even say the name skinwalker is negative. Skinwalkers to the Native Americans in the Uinta Basin are just as real as this chair.
You are protected by the blood of Jesus, Sean. Don't worry.
You heard of the Mormon Jeffrey Epstein? Let's talk about Gordon Bowen, a man who's also been coined as the Punisher for his obsession with torture. Gordon created advertisements for many influential people and companies, such as George Bush, Mitt Romney, Coca-Cola, Disney, Crayola, and Staples. He was constantly moving jobs because of his bizarre sexual behavior. Here are some of the allegations.
Wow.
And here is a script he wrote for the LDS Church when they asked him to screenwrite a film about Jesus. It contains weird sexual themes about Jesus and children. As you can imagine, they never used it. It's been speculated that he may have joined the LDS Church because of his infatuation with Barbara Boyce Timothy, a woman from his school who he believed would cure his homosexuality. She had 3 children with her first husband before he died, and then she married Bowen and had 2 more. Eventually, Barbara discovered through phone records that Bowen had propensities for gay escorts and gay pornography. During the divorce proceedings, all of his crimes against children and other members of the church were brought to light. In his own journal, he writes about how one of Barbara's sons needed tough masculine love and felt sexual desire towards Bowen. Barbara's other son recalls a time where he was molested in his bed while on vacation with Bowen. He was excommunicated publicly from the church in 2003, but behind closed doors, the church was still associating with him. Gordon was one of the main creative contributors for the Salt Lake City Temple Open House, even after all church leadership was made aware of his involvement in ritualized sexual abuse. Recently, he was even seen hanging out with high-level apostles at Disneyland. Both of his close friends, Mitt Romney and Apostle Russell Ballard, knew for over a decade that Bowen was accused of pedophilia, and they still chose to associate with him. David Hamblin was a member of the church and Gordon's therapist on and off for 30 years. Hamblin admitted on tape to raping his own daughters. He claimed that the cult within the church would use tactics to split members' personalities and even implant evil entities into their bodies. In Hamblin's daughter's testimony, they both claim that Gordon Bowen tortured and raped them in a room next to a corpse and multiple skin suits. They also accused David Levitt of being involved. Somehow, after all of this, the church remains affiliated with Bowen and he hasn't been charged. I think it forces us to beg the question, is church leadership also trafficking children? Do they own the local justice system? Or do they just have morally no problem hanging out with a child rapist?
So this dad bought a failing car wash one day and actually made it incredibly successful just by mainly hiring people with autism. It all started because John Dieri was really worried about his autistic 24-year-old son Andrew and was losing sleep over what would happen to him when he was no longer around. So since he knew that 85% of adults with autism end up unemployed, he just came up with the idea to start his own company to prove that autism can actually be a competitive advantage, not a disadvantage. Since many people with autism are really good with structured tasks, following processes, and attention to detail, John and his other son, Thomas, decided to buy a struggling car wash in Florida and hire people on the spectrum for 80% of their workforce. It was a lot of their first jobs ever, and since they were all incredibly grateful for the opportunity, they each brought a special kind of work ethic and passion in every single day. So even though a lot of people actually called John crazy at first, his new car wash was so successful that they ended up washing almost 5 times the number of cars as the previous year and even opened up 2 more locations with the same values. John has since hired over 500 different people with autism, some who even become managers, and his son Andrew just couldn't be prouder to have inspired the whole thing.
How many are we going to do this weekend? Hopefully over 1,000.
Whoa. He was like, who has attention to detail? I know.
Mike Tyson said God's greatest soldiers are also the devil's favorite. Yes. And I tell people that have addictions, the guy that was in prison, you made it this far because you're God's soldier. So now if you think, unfortunately, a lot of us can't think spiritually. So if you think spiritually, good, evil, if the good team has a powerful player, the evil team is going to do everything they can to take that player out. Everything it can. Let's try giving them fame. Let's try giving them a drug addiction. Let's try making this person get someone pregnant and we screw their life up for a while. Let's try to make them resentful. Let's try to make them angry. Let's try to make them go out of character and get in a fight. Let's mess with their emotions. Let's take out someone they love in their life and crush them and turn them away from their maker. The devil hates good souls.
In 1876, meat started falling from a perfectly clear sky in Kentucky. And nearly 150 years later, nobody has ever completely explained why. It happened on March 3rd, 1876, near Olympia Springs in Bath County, Kentucky. A woman named Miss Allen Crouch was outside making soap on her porch when pieces of raw meat suddenly began falling from the sky. Witnesses said it covered an area nearly 100 yards wide. The meat clung to fences, splattered across the ground, and her husband later said it drifted down like giant snowflakes. The next day, curious neighbors came to investigate. Who wouldn't? One local grocer described the smell as overwhelming. I can't imagine. And in a decision that would only happen in the 1800s, 2 men actually tasted the meat. One thought it was venison, the other said it tasted like mutton. Scientists later examined several preserved samples. They identified lung tissue, muscles, and cartilage. The leading explanation is that a flock of turkey vultures may have simultaneously regurgitated partially digested meat while flying overhead, a behavior vultures are known to do. But there's a problem. No one reported seeing any vultures that day. And while that explanation remains the most widely accepted, it's never been proven. And nearly 150 years later, the Kentucky meat shower remains one of the strangest documented mysteries in American history. You can still see a sample. It is located in Transylvania University in Lexington, Kentucky. Disgusting.
Something is happening in South Korea right now that's either ingenious or crazy and is going to cook their brains. People in South Korea are creating fake dopamine websites that allow users to do things like browse menus, order fake food, and even wait for fake deliveries to get the small satisfaction hits of buying things without actually costing them money. But science shows doing this could eventually fry your brain. D2 dopamine receptors are susceptible to downregulation from overstimulation, and artificial blue light is shown to create anhedonia by reducing dopaminergic neurons by up to 30% in animal models. Even though I understand the good intentions, you really can't live an overstimulating life indoors artificially and expect to get the same pleasure from doing things naturally in the real world.
What about the disappointment of wanting for food and there's no actual food?
Every person you meet that's a people pleaser or that has that kind of, or an overgiver, there's a certain untapped energy inside of them that if they were to tap into would completely transform their lives.
What is that?
That energy is being in contact with the stored anger and resentment underneath the surface. Normally, what happens is that anger that you're afraid to share towards other people by expressing yourself becomes internalized. Mm-hmm. So then you beat yourself up because you said yes when you really meant no. So there's this part of us that gets repressed underneath the surface with anger. And the key is actually the thing that you avoid. If you can embrace it, you will start to become more free. So if you think about it in the form of a people pleaser, if instead you let it be okay that you express yourself and someone feels tension, the tension they feel in their body is not your thing to manage. Mm-hmm. You will feel tension inside of your body when you first start allowing other people to feel tension. And the key is to sit with it.
The front of that thing is plated brass. They designed it so that it could fit in the front pocket so that it could stop a bullet.
No way.
So that's the 1943 Heart Shield Bible. President FDR, he partnered with the Gideons and they handed out these little pocket New Testaments to active World War II soldiers. There was an Air Force colonel that wore that into active duty. That's a prayer that the president wrote for those soldiers to read that book. It would sit right over a soldier's heart. And there's that thing, above all else, guard your heart, for from it flows the wellspring of life. And how do you guard your heart? I've hidden your word in my heart that I might not sin against you. So there you go, man.
Thank you. This is awesome, man.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Something really strange is happening with Plaqueboy Max. After a drastic change in his appearance, people began wondering if he was clip farming or coming out. He told his fans that he was now a diva and was going to embrace this energy.
Whoa, what did that say? You say diva. Bro, that's real? So, yes, you think it's makeup or something. Let me ask you this before I make my assumption. What does diva mean to you? I'm a fag. I'm going to do whatever the fuck I want.
This new look caught everyone by surprise, as just a year ago, he detailed his struggles with feeling the industry was trying to change him into someone he's not.
There's certain things we all have morals. That's too far, bro. Bro, y'all can see, even though I was in Miami smacking my ass doing all kind of crazy, bro, like, and they're seeing me on my hand. You should never, ever let go of your morals, ever. Bro, I'm not walking down Melrose in public with a diaper. So the fact that it feels like niggas sexualize me in a weird way that I'm not comfortable being sexualized.
While he once spoke out about this very thing, in the end, it seems like he gave into it, which makes everything that just happened at Streamer University all the worse. Recently, Plaqueboy Max went viral after another streamer, OJ, confronted him about his new appearance. He asked Plaqueboy what this whole diva thing was about, and when he attempted to give the same bad girl explanation, OJ shut him down. The man basically tried to tell him that playing with his sexuality to clip farm was a weird thing to do. He compared it to selling out, especially for someone like Plaqueboy Max, who claimed he didn't want to go down that route.
You're a diva? Why you want to be a diva? I want to be a diva. Man, you need holy oil, right? You need to sit down in the holy oil. You need to go get a church bath and cleanse your body, right? I think you are confused. I think you need some guidance. I think your parents feel a little way about that. I think you're clip farming and you're getting your clips. You pushing the persona. You smart. You loyal. I know what you're doing. You know what you're doing. You've been at this. But you are not a diva. Diva's been over. I don't think you've been over. You're not the little boys in Clover. You're not Tota. You're not a diva. You are a grown man. Plaqueboy Max. Not Plaqueboy Batty. Not Plaqueboy R. Are you going to tell your son that you are a diva? Daddy, what's diva? Hey. That is an abomination, Max. I am not proud of you. I am proud of everything else you did. Nominations. Changing the game. Changing your skin to Batty diva? Diva start with D. Diddy. What else? You know, it's like this, Max. You know, I could speak like this because after the clips go up and they don't like me, I don't use social media no more, so I can be a crackhead for life. When you keep pushing that barrier, Max, when you keep pushing that barrier, and time passes, what happens? What next? What's the next engagement? What's the next clip? Don't lose yourself, don't sell your soul, Max. They want your soul because you changed the game. Don't sell your soul. You know I have a soul.
You can watch this full episode now on my YouTube channel, The Truth Is. The link is in my bio or in my story.
Humiliation ritual. Every artist and some streamers have done it before. All right, folks, thank you for staying till the end. I hope you like my lineup. Don't forget to subscribe, likes, hype, and hit that bell notification so you won't miss my next video. Okay. Follow me on Instagram at Broski Ray. Have an awesome day and always, God bless.